from the areas of warfare and temporarily occupied territory. We will gather the speakers and representatives of the civil sector and government sector as well. We will talk about the crimes committed against our people. At 1300, joining us online will be Yuri Ignat, the spokesperson of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and we'll talk about the aftermath of this missile strikes. And joining us right now is the Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine, Mykola Solskyi. Mr. Mykola, good morning. We know that your team visited Africa last week. So what were the agreements you were able to achieve there, please? Good morning. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I wanted to hold a short briefing right after the return, not return of everybody, because right now in one of the countries of Africa there is a meeting going on. And just to summarize it in brief, and then take care of other matters. It took a week to prepare to have this visit, and this is part of the attention paid by Ukraine to the countries of Africa, and it's way more intense than it used to be in view of a number of reasons. First of all, is the big trade partner of Ukraine in the area of so-called grain relations. We supply grain to Africa for a very long time. Obviously, those countries should be paid more attention because we need to explain the situation that is taking place in Ukraine, the war, the aggression, so that they have deeper understanding of what's going on, because there's a big number of countries in Africa, and each of them has one vote in the United Nations, and it's important. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced the increasing of a number of embassies in the countries of Africa, and there should be an attention from that sector which works most with those countries. There was a journey around the countries of Western Africa, in Nigeria, Ghana, and Senegal. Those countries buy a lot of food products. First of all, the grain, for the wheat from Ukraine, and not only wheat. It's a big, very big market in terms of population-wise. They have a lower buying capacity than the countries of Europe, but the countries are developing, and we need to pay more attention to them, and they are ready to develop the logistic projects with Ukraine. Each of those countries is ready to, so to say, provide some logistic solutions in their ports related to storage and permanent presence of Ukrainian grain, so that both buyers and sellers could plan their activity in a calm and reasonable mode, so we could sell better and they could buy cheaper. And obviously there will be a meeting in the office of the president and for the government concerning the following steps. And I want to say that generally in official level, all the countries we communicated with, the representatives of all the countries, they understand very well what's going on in Ukraine. Unfortunately, on the official level, they're not yet ready to declare their stance, but such trips will change the nature of our relations. There's a big presence of China in those countries. Also, lately it's Turkey and traditionally Russia, and it influences obviously the nature of our relations, but it should be changed just like everything is changing in our country or during the last year or two. That's why we decided to meet. And if journalists have questions, what was happening where and what is about to happen next, so I'm ready to answer your questions. Mr. Mykola, so were we able to fix some agreements during this particular visit? Yes, we had a memorandum signed in Senegal. We prepared the conversation on the top level with the top level management of this country, and the preparation of the auxiliary documents is in progress. The representatives of Ghana had to sign a memorandum as well. The protocol was signed, the protocol of meeting, and now we're preparing the memorandum of a where we will reflect the readiness of both sides to move in the direction we agreed on. I mean, in terms of logistic hubs, we will send more technical specialists, and after that, we will be able to state something about some concrete things. It's a standard procedure during consideration of projects like those. Now we understand that we are very dependable on countries of I mean, during this cooperation with the countries of Africa, we depend on the grain corridor. And if it's so, how well does it operate now? Yes, those are very closely related things. As we all know, it doesn't operate in to the full capacity. And the main issue Ukraine is trying to solve is the control over Bosphorus and the work of GCC. That's why currently we don't see any public results in this area, but the negotiations are not so easy. The number of vessels going out and coming in is definitely not sufficient, and that's something that doesn't let the Ukrainian farmer and Ukrainian trader and our customers in Africa to work normally because the logistics is expensive and it's being put on farmer because no, the risks are not going anywhere, and further on the Ukrainian agrarians suffer the most. Dear colleagues, dear questions, please introduce yourself. Good morning, Anastasia Kravchenko, Ukrinform. My question is about those logistic hubs you mentioned, how quickly they can be created, built. What's your opinion on that? And in detail, what will be the advantage for Ukrainian business? What's it going to be? Look, technically, the construction doesn't take a lot. It's not the matter of construction itself, but it's about two things. First of all, it's the fixation of certain guarantees between two countries that it will be built and it will function normally. And secondly, is the principles of operation on part of Ukraine. It's a government-controlled company, how the private traders will be involved, and thanks God, it's so that they are private businesses and this field is developing. I think that somewhere in the middle of spring we will be able to give you some more news after the next negotiations, after the people will be sent there, after we will have consultations with business regarding their attitude to that and in which format they're ready to work with that. We have more questions. Dmitro Vlasov, BBC, could you please tell us what's the period of suspension of the vessels in the Black Sea and how does it influence the price of the grain? Well, I've heard that for some vessels it takes a couple of weeks to come in and then to leave. If we talk about handy size, it's like 25,000 per vessel per day. Before the new year, when we were talking to traders, they were stating the price of more than $20,000 per 1 day of suspension. So all those funds accumulated during the weeks of suspension, it will reflect on the price of the ton of grain which is being put on Ukrainian Agrarian. Any more questions, dear friends? Yes, I have another question about the African countries. What's the total amount of grain exported by Ukraine to Africa since the beginning of the operation of the grain corridor, and what is being exported? First of all, it's traditionally wheat, which is being imported. It's measured in millions of tons. And there is a certain amount of corn. Those are the two main crops that used to be, and they remain. We know that as of the beginning of the year that there was an issue with the insurance of our vessels. Yes, and was this problem solved? Yes, there were signals from insurance companies from abroad, not all of them, that they have issues with insurance of vessels going to Ukrainian ports. I mean, Odessa. So it's only part of insurance companies. The majority of the companies, they confirmed their possibility of insuring the vessels, and the negotiations are still in progress. So the ships which are being freighted for February, they are all insured, and thanks God, we can say that those statements influence the price significantly. We have a question from Bloomberg. Was the quality of corn in view of the late harvesting and weather? Could you compare it year to year? Yeah, obviously we can compare it. This year it's way worse because due to a number of reasons, we entered a very prolonged winter harvesting, which is complicated by itself because due to the temperature fluctuations that you can observe, it creates difficulties for agrarians, and it impacts the quality, affects the quality. Well, in percentage, depending on an agrarian, it can be up to 15% of loss. It depends on a number of factors like humidity and the type of hybrid, and the humidity when it entered the weather regime under below zero, and the temperature fluctuations which are happening now. So as of the beginning of the winter, about 1/3 of all the corn were still in the fields. It's twice less now, but it's still a big amount, and day to day the quality is worsening, and traders and the operators of elevators, they know how to work with that to improve the quality. But comparing to the previous year, which was better, the quality will be significantly worse. How worse, we will be able to say in the end of February. Why end of February? Because there's a substantial amount of corn still in the field. Yes, another question related to the weather conditions. How do you evaluate the influence of warm weather, and can we make first forecasts as to this year's harvest? No forecast can be done because it depends on the huge number of factors, starting from financial capabilities of the agrarians, for example, to improve the quality of wheat with the nitrogen fertilizers, because farmers save on that a lot now. And the warm winter, we don't have critical situation with winter crops, but it definitely doesn't help because such warm temperature provokes the beginning of vegetation for winter crops, winter barley and winter wheat. And with the temperature below zero, the plant remembers that it's winter, and for procedures like this during winter, it's not something that helps. But since we didn't have critical freezing temperatures, which would damage the wheat due to the absence of normal snow cover in the fields, the situation is not critical yet. So getting back to the issue of your visit to the countries of Africa, what is the expected result of such business trip? What's your maximum plan? Well, no wonders happen in any situation, and one or two business trip will not bring any significant results, and nobody sets tasks like that. It's just a step that should turn into a systematic work, because there are also Asian markets which also are developing for Ukraine. In my opinion, Africa, well, and in the opinion of the president, Volodymyr Zelensky reiterates it, and in the opinion of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Africa should be the priority of Africa should be put higher, starting from just elementary, just the number of business trips and amount of negotiations, and ending with the business activities there, including trade. African countries are actually ready for that. Dear friends, do you have any more questions? Well, now that we don't have more questions in the studio, I want to thank you. I'm reminding you, joining us was Mykola Solskyi. Our next briefing is at 12 o'clock, and we will be talking about deportation of our Ukrainians, about this crime. So bear with us, trust in the armed forces, and glory to Ukraine.